Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Welcome to Just Relationships. If you were listening to last week's show, you know that we are looking at life coaching for children. What a concept. Why didn't I think of this sooner myself? Someone who is a therapist, a coach, a counselor, a teacher, a parent, and now we have this whole new field that is so exciting. Welcome back, Renaye Thornborrow.
Thank you, Dr. Duffy. Great to be here.
Thank you. The author of Adventures in Wisdom, Life Coaching for Children. And it's a curriculum of 27 mindset skills. And we've been looking at what is the difference between coaching and counseling. And coaching, of course, we're looking at coming from a place of wellness, being proactive, being preventive, as opposed to counseling when there is some sort of obstruction or obstacle or problem to overcome. And we often can do coaching and counseling together because that's what's often called for. In my particular clients, Renaye, as a psychotherapist, I often coach my clients. What's the difference between a coach and a parent? And parents love their children, but they don't always formally impart certain life skills, and they may not be aware or recognize what the life skills are. So last week we investigated a little bit about resiliency and positive self-talk. And of course, self-esteem is the foundation of it all, and self-respect and respecting others. And teaching through the story coaching model, I think the point you made for me to reiterate, Renaye, was that while coaching for adults is all about asking the right questions to help people reflect, that coaching for children has a lot to do with storytelling and the values in the parables themselves, and then discussing, breaking that down.
Exactly.
So just talk to us about whatever is most important.
Yes. So, just to continue a little bit more about the coaching with children, it does require that we bring a teaching component into that work with kids, and then we support them using our powerful questioning techniques that we learn as coaches and applying it to their own lives so that the true transformation occurs. Because we don't want to just teach children about positive self-talk. We want them to live it. And that is where the coaching process will come in for sure. Yes.
Yes, and just to break it down, because I want everyone to know that this is affordable and it is accessible. If you go to Renaye Thornborrow's website, adventuresinwisdom.com, you will see access. How do you access that? You can access it through the public school, as the certified coaches have their own businesses. They're entrepreneurs. And they will do private coaching, they will do group coaching, they will coach in schools, they will coach in homes. So it's as accessible and as affordable as possible.
Definitely. If someone wants to work with a coach, just fill out one of the Connect with a Coach forms, let them know what your criteria is, and then coaches can work with you. Yeah. So we'd mentioned on the last show, you were talking about self-esteem and how important that skill it is. And it's one of the things that we see parents request the most, is really support with their children and self-esteem. Sometimes parents will see their child just wilt in front of their eyes, over a period of time, and they don't know what happened. They don't know what to do about it. And a lot of times children won't share. They're too embarrassed about if there is an event or something that had happened, or maybe it's just all the worries of the world or something that's getting to them. So we really do want to support children in learning how to develop their self-esteem. So I thought it might be kind of fun on this one to kind of share a little bit about how we use coaching stories and the process that we use to support children in learning about some of the different, what we call traps that crush self-esteem, and then how to use mindset skills to actually beat those traps. Would you like to explore that?
Yes, of course.
Okay, let's do it then.
I like how you did that. Set that thing up and and ask permission. Get the inclusion and the buy-in. Beautiful.
Great. So the first trap that we share about with children that crushes self-esteem, and actually, let's back up for a minute. If we watch young children at play, it's magical. They laugh together, they sing, they have fun. There's no recognition of differences when they're really young. But what happens is as children get older, they start noticing that there are differences between kids. They act different, they play different, they think different. And this is what creates the first trap that crushes self-esteem, which is comparison. Comparison, whenever children start comparing themselves to others, they're unable to see their own gifts and talents because they're so busy looking at other children's gifts and talents and seeing themselves as less than. So the mindset skill that our coaches are going to work with children on is honoring their uniqueness. And one of the ways we teach this, one of the coaching story that we use is called The Sun, the Wind, and the Rain. So this is just going to give you an example of how we use stories to bring concepts like this to life for children. So in this story, we have three forces of nature. We have the sun, the wind, and the rain. And all three of them really they admire the others. They want to be the others. So what happens is in the story, we have Wyatt the Wise Wizard. He's our main character. He's the kind of the mentor that shows up in all 27 of the skills. And he's the character that supports children and learning these different mindset skills. So in the story, Wyatt the Wise Wizard shows up and he allows everybody to be the sun at the same time. And of course, we see the devastating impact that it has on Earth. And then he allows everybody to be the rain at the same time. And again, we see the devastating impact it has on Earth. And then the wind at the same time. Again, you see the devastating impact it has on Earth. So then the sun rejoices in being the sun. The wind rejoices in being the wind. The rain rejoices being the rain, because they all learn how to honor their uniqueness, to see how important they are to the earth and the animals and plants and the survival and the thrival of our planet. And so it's just a really great way of teaching about honoring your uniqueness. And then we have different activities that we use with children so they can explore their own uniqueness, and then activities where they can explore other people's uniqueness, just by having conversations with them, interviewing them. And it's such a great family activity too, Dr. Duffy, is for a child to create it's great to be me poster or activity, or for each family member to do it, and for everybody to share and really honor uniquenesses. But then one of the ways that our coaches will work with a child over time, because once we share stories, kids love to repeat stories and things over and over. So we're always drawing back on whatever it is that we're teaching. But if you see a child getting down on themselves or kind of putting themselves down, you can just ask the coaching question, what would this look like if the sun was honoring the sun? We could say, is the sun honoring the sun? And it takes them back to that question or back to the story and realizing, wait a minute, I'm seeing the rain as being better than me, or I'm seeing the wind as being better than me. I'm the sun. I get to shine in my brightness. So that's just an example of how a coaching session might work. And, there's different activities or art projects we can do. I told you a couple of the activities. Sometimes, depending on the age of the child, they love to draw out the story. Because sometimes our coaches will use puppets. Sometimes they will have kids act out part of it, or they'll create little songs. So there's different things that we can do with kids with that.
Oh, Renaye, I am just so excited. What a fabulous story. The sun, the wind, and the rain, and teaching about ecology at the same time. Respect and love for the planet. It's and the whole idea of visionary questions. What would it look like if the sun honored the sun? Is there an age differentiation that you go through?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So when I wrote the curriculum, I was really targeting ages 6 through 12. So I wanted to reach children in elementary and middle school, help them develop these skills when they're first kind of getting lifed. They're having social situations, maybe issues with grades or academics, or in extracurricular activities. Maybe they're struggling with a sports team, or didn't get picked for the play, or whatever happens to happen. How do you deal with this as kids? Because they're just not taught that. And plus, at the time, that's how old my kids were. So I was really developing this whole thing for my own children. But what's been really interesting, Dr. Duffy, is I've had coaches come on, and we have coaches who love the littles. They love working with the younger kids, 4 or 5 years old. So they've used the curriculum with some adaptation in order to reach the littles. But one thing that surprised me too is how many of our coaches use our work with teens. And if you think about it, mindset skills are for everybody of all ages. Some of our coaches even use our work with grownups. It's interesting. But whenever they're using it with teens, it's really important to frame the reason why you're sharing a children's story or fable. And a lot of times they'll share information like from the mentor's guide as well. So for each one, I talk about stories. So the way the curriculum is structured is each skill is taught through what we call a skill book. And a skill book has two parts. It has a mentor's guide that has the background information and coaching tips, has the children's guide. That's where you're going to have the coaching story, discussion questions, and then activities to really support the child and apply it to their own lives. So I say story, skill book, I kind of go back and forth with those. So I just want to have a distinction. So when working with teens, sometimes our coaches will include some of the information from the mentor's guide as well. And our coaches come from all different backgrounds. For some, that's their area of expertise is working with teens, or some work with neurodiverse children, or some work with children who are on the spectrum. They have different or have learning differences. They have their own passions and demographics they love to work with, and they just bring our curriculum in as part of the work that they're doing with children as well.
And I can see how this really bridges the gap between adults and children, how it helps to build a rapport, because I can see myself talking to my grandchildren and asking them questions and thinking that that's what one does. And now I see that I can actually move more into storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Well, the stories do the work. And then the coach is there to provide that emotionally safe space so that children can apply this to their own lives. We have seen time and again that stories are the most effective way to work with children. There's several reasons for that. One is proven brain science. And that is that whenever we're learning facts, only those intellectual regions of our brain that turns words into meaning are being stimulated. And that's very much true too in like just a questioning sort of process. But when we're hearing a story, or experiencing a story, because we really call it experiencing, not just listening to a story, is physiological, emotional, as well as the intellectual centers of our brain. And because more of our brain is being stimulated, it creates stronger memories, not only around the stories, but from the lessons of the stories. And like you said, it's such a great non-threatening way for children to learn about life, because it's not about them. They're learning through the story, the characters and situations of the stories, and these are very similar to what they might be facing in their lives. And then with a coach, you're helping them apply what they're learning to what they might be experiencing. So it's engaging, it's fun, it's interactive, and it really supports children in having that safe environment to explore and learn how to navigate the life. And plus we have terminology that is child friendly and helps coaches and parents continue the conversation. For example, we talked earlier about the grungies when we're talking about sharing, teaching respect, how we talked about how every time we're with someone, we leave a mark, either a gold heart or a grungy mark based on how we treat them. Well, the grungy mark term grungies comes from our curriculum. It's what we use whenever we're kind of feeling off in our body. If we're feeling grungy, like something's going on, and we're having grungy feelings, what we teach children is to examine their thoughts, because our thoughts create our feelings. And a lot of times those thoughts are limiting beliefs, it's negative self-talk, things that are holding us back in life. So when we start exploring our thoughts, then we can learn how to shift our thoughts. We call that power shifting in our curriculum, so that they can have more loving, supportive thoughts, which creates those supporting belief systems as well. So the terminology is really important. It gives them a safe way. Kids don't like to talk about being angry or afraid, but they love talking about grungies and dragons, which are from the curriculum.
So it's, yes, we had talked about that last week. I was so struck by that. So that is worth repeating. The whole vision of leaving a mark. And do you leave a gold heart or a grungy mark? It's not heart, it's mark, right?
Mark, right.
Gold heart or grungy mark. When you leave a scene, what's left there?
Yeah.
And yes, that is brilliant. And people want to leave gold hearts, right? People
absolutely.
gold hearts. want to make a difference. And I believe that most people want to come on this earth to be seen and to be seen in a positive light because they've made a positive difference. And children who act out to get attention, they don't see that they can make a positive difference. They just think they can make a negative difference. So, but I want to be seen. So I'll take the negative over the positive. Yeah.
And it's such a simple exercise as well. And it empowers kids because they realize, wow, all I have to do is focus on giving gold hearts.
Yes, I just have to focus on getting gold hearts. And the term power shifting, that seems rather sophisticated to me. And children take that term on?
Oh, absolutely, because we teach it through stories. Yep. In fact, I'd love to share that because it's a big part of self-esteem. So it's part of the concepts we teach. So one of the traps that happens is whenever an event happens, like a negative event happens, a lot of times children will internalize that is something wrong with them. So I failed a test, I'm a failure. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how we would teach that with shifting. So first thing we teach children is that events are neutral. We get to decide how we experience that event based on how we think about it. You have positive thoughts, we can feel more empowered. Negative thoughts, and we feel bad about ourselves, hurts our self-esteem, confidence, etc. So whenever we have an event, if we're feeling those grungy feelings, that's what we always teach children. Pay attention to your feelings first. Then what are the dragons, or dragons are what we call the thoughts. So what are the negative thoughts that are flying around? And then how do we shift those negative thoughts into positive supporting thoughts? So we call it wearing our power goggles. Putting on the power goggles, because we want to look at this situation in a way that empowers us. And the story that we teach is actually called Power Goggles, and it teaches this concept. So it's learning how to shift and change your thinking. So for example, and by the way, kids get to practice. So they practice, we give them a situation, they put on their victim goggles first, then they put on their power goggles. And kids, depending on the age, they'll do art projects where they actually get to create their own power goggles, because it gives them a memory marker that they can take home so that they can, every time they see that, it helps them remember to choose how they're thinking about things. So for example, the failing a test, if they have their victim goggles on, I failed, I'm a failure, or if the teacher is trying to trick me, or that's not fair, all those things that can go through a child's head. But what happens if they put on their power goggles? Gosh, maybe I didn't study the right thing, or maybe I need to study harder next time, or maybe I could ask the teacher for extra credit, or maybe I need to go in for some extra tutoring. So that shifts the situation from a judgment about themselves, I'm a failure, to a problem that they're solving, which is, how do I improve this grade? How do I make sure this doesn't happen again next time? So that's the power of wearing their power goggles. And again, it's like, it becomes an anchor coaching question. What would this look like if you're wearing your power goggles once a child's been introduced to this concept? So for each one of our skill books, we have these anchoring coaching questions, and then it feeds through the coaching process. Because, coaching's not linear, as you all know, and children, grown-ups, all of us, I'm constantly working on shifting my thinking too. In the coaching world, we call it just shifting. Sometimes we call it reframing. It's all the same thing. We just use the term power shifting because it leads into our power goggles, and it's a lot of fun for kids and a really great way for them to remember this skill.
And I think children know the word power from superheroes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we talk about for confidence, you're striking your power pose, and which, by the way, is great for us grown-ups. If you going into a meeting or whatever, go into the restroom and go strike your superhero power pose, and that it really creates energy within your body of confidence.
Amy Cuddy's work. Amy Cuddy is the one who created that whole concept of you change your physicality, and you change your physiognomy, your chemistry inside.
Great. I'm not familiar with her work, but I'm just familiar with the concept from so much work. But yes, absolutely. Yeah. So changing state.
I just love it. What would it look like if you're wearing your power versus your victim goggles? Mm-hmm. So I just want to comment that so much of education after kindergarten and first grade moves into left brain.
Yes.
Kindergarten, first grade, it's at first grade, it's, we're the robins, or we're the larks, we're this, we're that, and all the color and the drawing and the art. And then now, second grade, we have to learn to read, write, and do arithmetic. And so what this is about right brain activities, which studies have shown that right brain activities are more memorable, right?
We're stimulating multiple areas of the brain where we're using them.
Right.
Yes.
They're so much more experiential.
Mm-hmm.
And I am interviewing Renaye Thornborrow, who is the creator of Adventures in Wisdom, coaching, life coaching for kids curriculum, a whole life coaching for kids curriculum called Adventures in Wisdom. And you can access her through her website, adventuresinwisdom.com. And you mentioned parents. Can parents purchase the curriculum to do on their own with their children?
So the option that we have right now, if parents were interested in using our curriculum with their children, is to become a coach. That really is the focus of our business. And we've had some parents do that, especially when they want to bring it to their community. A lot of parents who love this type of work, they're volunteers in their children's school or in scouts or in sports. And so there's a lot of opportunity for them to turn this into a side business, and even for some, a full-time career. So they can become a coach if that's something that inspires them and will help them do their work in the world.
And what you did, Renaye, being a parent yourself to move into this, yeah. I am just thinking about how many women are so educated and smart and interested in the world, and yet they need a flex time right. schedule. Yeah. They want to go back to work. They want to go to work, but they have to work around their children's hours. This would be ideal, would you say, for mothers?
Oh, fantastic. For anyone who is the key thing that we see across all of our coaches, they love personal development, absolutely love working with children, empowering children, and they see working with children as helping them do their work in the world. Those are the core things. And our approach gives them so much flexibility, especially for coaches who are open to coaching online, which was kind of one of the gifts of the pandemic, was that a lot of our coaches had to shift their business to working online. And because it's such an engaging curriculum, it absolutely works with children online, via Zoom. And so that opened up the whole world to our coaches. And so for coaches who want to work with children during the day while their children are at school, they can work with kids like in Europe or in other areas of the world who it's their evening time. And it just opens up the whole world to them.
My word, this is getting better and better. Renaye Thornborrow, adventuresinwisdom.com. And I also am very impressed with your distinction, of course, that feelings come from thoughts, and the average person doesn't recognize that because feelings are so visceral and they come to us so quickly, and the average person isn't aware that it comes from what we think. Mm-hmm. So to teach such a sophisticated concept to children, it's amazing. And you do it through dragons, that the negative feelings are dragons.
Negative feelings are grungies. The thoughts are dragons. Yeah. So the dragons are things like self-doubt, fear, other people's opinion. And so we actually help them identify, what are those dragons? What are those thoughts? And then how do we mitigate those? Of course, we don't use the word mitigate with little kids, but I guess it could be a vocabulary lesson. But one of the first things we teach children is about paying attention to their body, recognizing those grungies, because when they're having grungy feelings, first place to go is to your thoughts. And then, we have our conscious thoughts, right? Where we know, okay, this is what's bothering me. But what happens to us, especially those of us, adults, and we have a lot of experience, a lot of times something happens and it triggers a brain pattern that's deep within our brain that's at an unconscious level. And that's one of the reasons why, too, it's so important to be proactive in supporting children in developing supporting beliefs in their lives. And I mean, all of us are going to have stuff that comes in on the subconscious, right? We're always going to have those there. But the more we learn about how our mind works, the more we can learn how to be empowered in situations that happen.
And as a therapist, I teach my clients body language, not in the internal body language. And because we as adults have learned to stay in our heads, everything is above our necks.
Right.
And to drop down into your body and to see what you're experiencing. The average person has lost touch with that.
Yeah.
So you actually teach children to pay attention to their bodies in terms of their responses, their visceral responses.
Well, because when they're feeling those grungies, something is going on from a thought perspective. And then if they put on their power goggles, it enables them to be more empowered in that situation. Now, it takes practice. Right? It takes practice even for us as grownups, right? And that's where coaching can really help, is supporting a child in understanding and identifying if it's something they don't see themselves. But it's just like the body is so important. It's just like, teaching a child, to touch their heart in 5 deep breaths. So they engage the parasympathetic nervous system and help calm themselves down and go from their reptilian brain back into the frontal lobe so that they can think again. And that's so important for us grownups too.
So important. My goodness, that reptilian brain.
Yes.
So if a negative thought is called a dragon, what are the positive thoughts called?
And we just call them positive thoughts or empowering thoughts. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we need a new term.
Yeah, you could probably come up with one. I'm just thinking for the negative thoughts, the ants, I forgot who coined the term ants, automatic negative thoughts.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Ants, automatic negative thoughts. Yep. I've heard things like, monkey mind, where your mind's just jumping around. I've heard that one too.
Yes,
but yep. Yeah, there's great terminology out there.
There's great terminology, and it's so helpful. And in my lectures, I literally bring an ant. I actually found a wire ant in Argentina at a craft fair. So I bring that. Automatic negative thoughts. They are so deep. So Renaye Thornborrow, I cannot thank you enough. This is brilliant. You are brilliant to come up with this whole concept and to build a curriculum and to access it to so many people. And I want to also get the word out for you and let people know about this. Again, it's affordable and it's accessible. And I'm so glad so many professionals, maybe retired professionals, are interested in doing this sort of thing, and that it's very substantial, that you have it all written out, the stories are there, the questions are there. It really makes it so much easier for people.
That was the goal, was to provide a step-by-step process to support them. We've been talking a lot on the coaching side. We support people on the business side too. But for those who are interested in becoming a coach, we invite everybody to get the free coaching story just to experience the curriculum. But we have an overview video that shares all about the process, support you receive. If it's something that inspires a listener to possibly become a coach, you can learn, see if this is something that might work for you, and then just schedule a call with one of our success coaches and go from there.
Adventuresinwisdom.com. Adventuresinwisdom.com. Look it up just for yourself. Read that story. So thank you again, Renaye Thornborrow, so much. And this is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye for now and wishing you great relationships.